America's pandemic-era Title 42 restrictions came to an end this past Thursday, May 11th. It's a milestone that officials worried could trigger a major new wave of migration that strains border facilities and big cities across the United States of America. All along the nearly 2,000 miles of border, agents, soldiers, and local officials were striving to maintain order even before lifting of the policy as a migrant surge has resulted due to global shifts in migration patterns as economic and political forces. The end of COVID has displaced millions across the globe, sending many towards the United States to seek refuge. Now, the COVID border restrictions, known as Title 42, they were first implemented by the Trump administration in 2020, right at the beginning of COVID, and continued into the Biden administration until they expired late Thursday. Now, the restriction allowed both presidential administrations, both Trump and Biden, to expedite the expulsion of migrants without any asylum hearings. In the weeks leading up to the lifting of Title 42, the Biden administration braced for what was widely expected to be a record surge in migration across the United States-Mexico border. And the end of the COVID-19 pandemic emergency after 3 years has forced the United States to once again confront its international obligations to shelter those in need. The images of desperate migrants and overburdened immigration officials are playing out across the border from California to Texas. The El Paso City Council extended a state of emergency to handle the large number of arrivals. They converted 2 vacant schools into shelters. In McAllen, Texas, the city set up extra tents at Anzaldes Park next to a busy migration point. In Washington, D.C., Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, said officials were as prepared as they could be given the legal and funding constraints of an immigration system that he said still operated under outdated assumptions from the early 1990s when migration was completely different. Mayorkas confidently told reporters at the White House on Thursday, "Our plan is going to deliver results." And perhaps Biden's policies, they're working faster than even his own administration expected. On Sunday, Mayorkas said on CNN's State of the Union that over the past 2 days, over the Friday, Saturday, going into Sunday, the United States Border Patrol has experienced a 50% drop in the number of encounters versus what we were experiencing earlier in the week before Title 42 ended at midnight on Thursday. But he did caution it's still too early to tell if the migrant surge has peaked. Mayorkas says, "We are only on day 3, but we have been planning for this transition for months and months, and we've been executing on our plan, and we will continue to do so." On Saturday, 2 Department of Homeland Security officials also indicated that daily migrant crossings had roughly halved since the pandemic restrictions ended. The officials told NBC News there were roughly 11,000 migrants on Tuesday and Wednesday and 10,000 on Thursday. Prior to the lifting of Title 42, many Republicans and some Democrats expressed skepticism on whether the administration was prepared for a potential uptick in asylum seekers. In fact, the House passed a Republican-backed bill to address immigration at the United States-Mexico border last week on the same day that Title 42 was lifted. The legislation, known as the Secure the Border Act of 2023, that would mandate that Customs and Border Protection hire enough Border Patrol agents to maintain a staff of 22,000 officers and develop a plan to upgrade existing technology to make sure agents are well equipped to do their job. It also would require the Homeland Security Secretary to resume construction of the border wall, a centerpiece of Donald Trump's administration. Now, this is just a bill that passed the House of Representatives. It needs to pass the Senate, and President Biden needs to sign it, so it is unlikely to become law. Democrats have been opposing it. They hold a slim majority in the Senate, and the White House has already said they're going to veto it. Democrats argued that it would go beyond the scope of border security, punish all non-citizens, including legal residents, trafficking victims, as well as refugees. Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.